This is the king of peeking, in case you didn't know.
That's awesome coming from a transplant.
That's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, y'all, welcome back to Chasing Dreams Homestead. Listen, if you hadn't been following on social media, we are trying to fight a tyrannical, in my opinion, county ordinance that's trying to be pushed in under everybody's noses. Alan, you've been detrimental in helping work on this thing. You put a really lengthy post out the other day. Do you want to touch on any of those topics in this video?
I don't think the word's detrimental, but yeah, sure. might have been detrimental. I don't know. That's a possibility. A lot of people probably don't like me, but I don't care. But
well, that's the part. You're breaking down the facade that they're from the government and here to help.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing. Every time you get new onerous regulations in government, they ain't never taking none of that away. They're going to keep expanding it. And if you think that they ain't going to do that to you in this county, you've not been paying attention. As somebody who was born in this county and lived in this county, I've watched a lot of these same people take huge steps for personal gain, power, etc. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Just saying what I have observed, what I've heard from other people, and I'm not even saying that that's everybody that's involved in this. And I'm not even saying that there aren't things that are potential in there that are possibly, not gonna call them good because I don't like those kind of regulations, right, but they could be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Right.
But I think, and I'm gonna say this before we even get into any of the actual topics, when I marked my version of this up with my notes at home, should have took a picture of it, because I was so mad when I went through it. I had a red ink pen. I actually went through and I actually put Trash Volume 1 on there, because you can guarantee if they pass this thing, there's going to be a Volume 2, and it's going to be worse.
Yep.
But I've been calling this the Kill Our County document, because that's what it is. It doesn't provide any growth whatsoever. If you go through this document and you just look at it on the face of it, you're not really reading through the regulations at the very least. Look through this document. They laid out a commercial zone. Well, they laid out regulations for a commercial zone, and they laid out regulations for an industrial zone. And yet there is no commercial zone and there is no industrial zone yet. But there could be. There's an awful nice loop of land outside of Salem here that there could be one day. Just throwing that out there for consideration. And I don't yet know where that boundary is, but
Right.
We'll find out.
We'll
see. Because nothing like this ever comes out where somebody don't stand to benefit quite greatly from it, in my opinion.
I think you're right, sir. I think you're right. Y'all listen, first and foremost, we want to tell you, get this document and read it. I will put the link in the comments section so that you can find it. But neither of us are lawyers. We're just average citizens in this county that found this to be quite alarming when it was brought to our attention, okay? So please get out here and read this. We're going to share our opinions with you. We're going to try to make it to where you can understand it. We're going to share what we found out at our meeting with Danielle Walker. That was a two-plus hour meeting. That was a pretty long meeting. And that's all we're doing, is sharing our opinions and our understanding of this, okay? It's kind of like you can go to 3 different churches and 3 different preachers are going to tell you their interpretation of the same scripture, okay? That's all it is. That is just our opinion. So please read this and inform yourself. Do your homework. We cannot win this thing with well wishes and prayers and social media comments. We have to get out, we have to be heard, and we have to be seen.
And even if you're not going to speak, show up and be there. Because the thing to remember is these people are in the community. If they pass this, after hearing your concerns or hearing your neighbors' concerns, your friends and family's concerns, and they can still live with themselves in the community, looking people in the eye at the grocery store and everywhere else they got to go, that shows you what kind of people they are. And the ones that actually run for office and actually are elected officials, there's a way to get rid of that problem. You vote them out.
Absolutely.
But they got to live with themselves around you, and don't forget that. Real quick, too, I want to touch on something. I mentioned the industrial and the commercial thing. The reason I said that in the no growth thing, and this is kind of getting into some of the stuff in the document. When I say no growth, here's what I mean. You can't lay out this zoning idea, and I'm all for agriculture, 100%. I'm for the big farmer, I'm for the small farmer, I'm for all farmers, right? I may have my disagreements with big farmers, etc., but I still respect them, and I know they do good, hard work.
Right.
Without a doubt. But you can't lay out that you're going to require everyone in the agricultural zone and the recreational zone to have 2 acres worth of land and force people to break up family farms if they want their kids to have a piece of the farm with a house on it, etc. You can't have any growth coming in here from Louisville, which, let's face it, that's where it's coming from, is out of Louisville.
Yep.
Because it's become a sleepy little kind of suburb of Louisville as what it were. You can't have any construction to expand your tax base if you only allow 2-acre lots, plus it sounds like by one of the regulations in there, they're not allowing for new roads, which that's pretty interesting because they don't define roads, so I would suspect that's a gravel driveway.
That brings up a great point before we're going to bounce all around. We're like a bunch of dogs with squirrels in the room, okay, y'all? Definitions. This document does not have enough definitions to clearly lay out the verbiage that is in this document for a common person to understand. Even the planners of this document are confused about what this document says. And that is a fact. Danielle was very sweet to us, so this is nothing negative about Danielle, but even in that meeting, there were parts of this document that Danielle was not quite familiar with, and we had to come together, us, Danielle, and the other people at the party, and figure out what it meant and cross-reference other sections, because much like back to the Bible, and I'm not pushing religion on anybody, but you've got to bounce around in the different books to understand what one scripture really means, okay? And that's just like this document right here. And they've done it that way, and I don't know if they did it intentionally to be confusing, but they've done it that way, and it makes it a hard research assignment. I promise you that much.
I would say, in my opinion, it was either done out of ineptitude or it was done to be confusing on purpose. And I'll get to that because there's a whole 6.5 pages about adult stores. And I'm pretty sure it's there just to distract you from the larger issues. Secondarily, on the growth thing, I want to focus on that one more time real quick. You also can't have growth if you are zoning out commercial and industrial. You don't have those places on your zoning map whatsoever, but you don't have any infrastructure in the county to support industrial in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
We have a water issue here in Washington County. We rely on one city in the county to provide water for the whole county, and that has been government ineptitude since the 1950s. There have been opportunities to fix that over the years. You're not going to have industry if you don't have water supply. Who knows where we're at with this water thing? We could be a couple years out from Flint, Michigan. Who knows?
That's funny that he said that. I was thinking the same thing.
You have no municipal sewers on top of it. So it's literally a zero growth zoning document. They're going to tell you, this is for the good of the community. This is going to really help us grow. It ain't going to do nothing for you. It's probably going to do something for a few people, for sure, without a doubt. And to the definition issue, even wherein there are legal definitions in Indiana law that they could have used, they do not bother to put those legal definitions in this document, nor to point anywhere in Indiana law where you can find those definitions. You will also not find that on their website.
Which, hey guys, if you're going to plan a document and you're going to put it through the county, and you're going to say that a lot of it comes from the state, it would be wise to back that up with, like he just said, listing the codes in the document, guys. I don't know. I went to college. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but if I did a research paper and I didn't turn in citations, I'm not getting a very good grade, okay? I'm just saying, all right? So Alan was talking about the no parcel shall contain more than one residential structure, and so they want you to believe that the most of these restrictive ordinances are only going to apply to two tiny little specks on the map. That's what I keep hearing over and over and over again.
R1 and R2, Kent and Martinsburg.
But, Miss Danielle Walker, I'm sorry to keep throwing you under the bus, but you were nice enough to meet us, and you did confirm this, ma'am, that Section 10.2, residential, on page 49, applies to everyone that falls in this county outside of city limits. Mm-hmm. So if your city is not incorporated, that applies to you. And the very first thing is single-family homes. No parcel shall contain more than one residential structure. So if you've got, like my daughter, her father-in-law has 48 acres. If he wants to break them off and say, hey, you guys go ahead and go build you something, what's the process that Danielle explained he's going to have to do to be able to legally do that in this county if this passes, y'all?
Yep, they got to get the GIS, they got to get the whole thing, and then it's up to you to actually have that surveyed, as it is anytime you buy property. You get the GIS stuff as it comes in from the county surveyor, but then you need to actually get it physically surveyed, as you should do if you're going to break off a piece of land anyways. But the onerous nature of having to do that is absolutely ridiculous. The burden that puts on family farms, small farms and smallholders in particular. Listen, these people who are making these documents, I'm just going to say it, and people can hold this against me all they want to. They don't know what it's like to be poor to begin with, but to be even land rich and money poor. They've never been there. They don't have that problem. They're okay with you having that problem, though. They're completely fine with that. And to make another valid point here with Danielle, who was very nice to us, she did come to Chase. Mm-hmm. She set up that meeting. We didn't chase that down. There's a fun pun.
I like that.
Yeah, right? We weren't on the chase. And she was very kind to us in that meeting, but she said something that really, really aggravated me in that meeting about this particular situation. She said, well, and then there's that imaginary line there. It's not an imaginary line if it's costing you money and you have to pay taxes on it. And if you, for example, didn't want to, how was it she phrased? I can't remember how it was phrased. If you wanted to own both lots, you could own both lots. So you can go ahead and get taxed 2 times for the same land.
And that's essentially what that's creating. So under this, back to that example, my daughter's father-in-law, 48 acres. He gave my daughter and my son-in-law 1 acre. They're not going to be able to build if this passes on that. But guess what? Now that 1 acre is going to be taxed as a separate parcel. Instead of the original 48-acre parcel, now they have more tax revenue for the county. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. My goal, my dream, is to buy enough land one day that all of my kids can build on it. My wife are not grandparents, but we've often talked about it'll be awesome one day to sit on the porch and see grandkids come running across the field from their mom and dad's house to our house. If you get into this and this passes, that's not going to be an option unless you start breaking up your land. And then that creates more tax revenue for the county.
More parcels, which leads to more zoning, because then it starts going into that R1 and R2 stuff over
the
time.
Population's getting dense around there. There's a lot of parcels now.
Got a problem now. They can't have chickens back there. Bloomington can have chickens. Well, they can have chickens, but they got to ask first. We got to make sure those vicious creatures are kept under control and not hurting nobody.
In all fairness, they are mini velociraptors. Okay?
It's true. It's true. It absolutely is, without a doubt. That line, like I said, is not imaginary. I can't see the wind, but I can feel it, and it has an effect, don't it, guys? And it's going to have an effect on you without any doubt whatsoever. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your family. It's going to hurt your family farm. It's going to cause exactly what they're saying they're trying to keep from happening, the breaking up of more and more land. If you're not allowed to extend the road, again, no definition there whatsoever. How are you going to get to that parcel to begin with? Now, maybe there's some confusion on my end with that understanding. I'm fully aware that I am not smart enough to understand this document. But as I said in my post, listen, as a historian and somebody that's always been very interested in spirituality, the greatest mage of the 14th century could not have written this with the devil's right hand. There is no way. I suspect that there is no way they understand this document.
They don't.
And real quick on this document too. So we've been told that about 1/3 of it came from Jackson County. I posted the statistics comparing Jackson County to Washington County, because if you're going to base any of this on what Jackson County did, you better compare the 2 counties. And the only thing we have in common is land area. We're about 3 square miles different in land area, I believe, if I remember correctly. But population density, there's a huge difference. Housing units, there's a huge difference. Salary, there's a huge difference. It's insane how big the difference is. And what I've come to suspect, and what I think many other people have come to suspect, because they have spent 12 years on this, and let me tell you, I believe it's been many more years than this. The reason they are pushing it now is because they believe that those old timers that lived in this community have died out to the extent that now they have a chance to push this thing through. And I have no doubt that they are going to push it through, but we can at least show up, we can talk to it, and maybe there's some things we can do about that in the future. For sure.
Todd repeatedly stated on the WSLN radio interview that he's not going to stop working on this thing. He's going to get it pushed through. They've been working on it a long time. I don't understand the government to the aspect of how one commissioner has any more juice than the other 2 commissioners in the county. That doesn't make sense to me. Who made this guy the figurehead? I understand he's the president of the planning board, which I still kind of find that weird. How are you the president of the planning board that's supposed to submit proposals to the commissioners to vote on? But that's here nor there. But who is this guy? Why is he so much more powerful than Phil or Tony? I don't get that. I thought we had 3 commissioners so that we don't end up with a tie vote, but all of their votes carry the same weight. But if you hear Todd talk, he's head honcho. I don't know.
It's also a little strange, and I'm not clear of the legalities of this in general, but it's a little strange that there's some nepotism on that board, it would seem like, too, because I believe that Todd's son-in-law is on that board with him.
Yeah.
Even if that's not illegal, that should probably give you some reason for concern. Another reason for concern that you might have is that, and all due respect to the guy who runs an awesome agritourism center, Kevin Baird is a part of this board, and conveniently in the agritourism section And I know we're jumping around all over again. I do apologize for that.
It's a lot of document to unpack.
It's a lot.
And y'all, we are doing our best to just bring the information to you.
But that agritourism section, did you notice that it outlines exactly every single thing that is done at Cornucopia Farm? And then when you look at agritourism and how it's going to be regulated in this document, the way it reads, and again, I may be mistaken, I may not be reading that correctly. I fully admit that I'm pretty much an idiot. It just is what it is. I'm a distiller for a living, bottom of the social ladder and all that stuff. But it does look like it's going to be almost hard to start agritourism because the way it reads, you have to have a current farm that is already productive and active, which makes it sound like you couldn't go buy an old farm and then convert that into agritourism. You couldn't buy raw land as you have done and convert that into agritourism. On the agriculture thing as well, they go ahead and they make sure that you're aware that you can have chickens in the agricultural zone. You can have livestock in the agricultural zone. But then you go over there and you look at those fun little low occupation business regulations. So
that's page 50 for those at home that are following this. They call them low impact home occupations.
That's it, low impact.
Y'all, this one right here is a kick in the short pants for me because I tell you what, I had dreams and aspirations of starting a small greenhouse and a nursery on the raw land that he mentioned I bought. Well, guess what? They don't want you doing that. They don't want you having a little nursery or a little greenhouse. You're allowed to do it if you do it on a large commercial level in this document, but not as a low impact home business occupation. And the reason for that, and this is from Danielle, is they don't want a whole lot of traffic bothering our neighbors, y'all. That's what she said. You know, they're comparing this like anyone that would have a low impact home occupation is going to be living in a subdivision. Most of us in this county live on some long road that's spotted here and there with houses. And if you're like me, you live on a road that connects two state highways. So guess what? You got through traffic all day long.
Or if you're like me, you live on Highway 60.
He's got traffic all day long too.
Plus a walking trail.
Right. And honestly, I'm kind of jealous because he's got a great opportunity to advertise if he wanted to have one with all that traffic. He's got twice the traffic I do, if not 3 times the traffic.
Well, you know, the fun thing about bad laws is they were meant to be nullified. So I think I'm just going to do it regardless of what happens with this, to be quite honest with you.
Be careful now. You're starting to sound like some of those people in the local government.
I could start a ruckus. Who knows?
Hey, y'all, I'm not going to say everybody in this local government's bad because I'm going to tell you this right now. I've had a few people from the government, and I'm not going to list their names. They've asked me not to, that have reached out to me, and I'm a nobody. I'm a transplant to this county. I came here in 2016. I don't know the history of all the infighting and bickering and all the nonsense that's going on here. I love this county. I loved how rural it was, and I picked it. I didn't want to live in a big city like Louisville. But I've had people from the local government reach out to me and tell me all kinds of awful stories about corruption within this government. I've heard about intimidation. I've heard about all kinds of just nefarious stuff going on in this little local government. It is crazy to me. So don't think that I'm saying everyone in our local government is bad.
100.
There are people in this government that are good and they're trying to stand up and do the right thing, and guess what? They're being bullied by their peers in this local government, and that's not okay.
I think a lot of them are scared, and they haven't. I think they've seen that a lot of times the public don't back them up, and I think this time a little bit of overreach, and I think there's going to be people to back the good people up, and I think the bad people that are elected, they're going to be out of office before too long. It's coming.
I believe so too. We're going to get back on this low impact home occupation. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is I absolutely love my Amish community. I have a very good working relationship with several members of the Amish community, and almost every Amish person I've ever met has a home business. I've not came across one yet that doesn't have some sort of home business, whether it's just a produce stand in the front yard selling some honey or making something. They have woodworking shops, leather shops, all of these different things. This is going to impact that Amish community. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is going to hurt our Amish community.
It is. It 100% is. And on top of that, for those of you who aren't farmers with this low impact home occupation thing, the way that this is read is so vague that they more or less tell you that even home offices are you have to have a special permit for a home office for tax purposes. In what world does that make sense to you in any way, shape, or form? They also go way out of their way to lay out specific businesses. And I think there's a list of them in there if I'm not, wrong.
Sir. Auto vehicle sales and repair, barber and beauty shop. You can't have more than a 2-chair operation. Who came up with that? I don't know. You can't have a commercial kennel. Let me correct myself. It's not you can't. You have to get on your knees and say, Big Daddy, please let me have it, please. You got to ask permission.
I've been good.
Yeah. You can't have any freight trucking. You can't have any heavy manufacturing, landscaping, nursery, plant materials.
How's that not agricultural,
So if I want
guys?
to do an organic farm on my property and have people come out and do a CSA, a commercially supported agriculture, or community supported agricultural company, I can't do it with this.
I helped get the Fleener peach recently boarded onto the Slow Food Ark of Taste with hopes of actually starting a nursery of Fleener peaches that have been here since 1806 in this county. I got to come beg you to be able to have that nursery to restore heritage plants. How agriculturally centric and caring is that in the first place?
Right. You can't have restaurants, eating or drinking establishments, including bed and breakfast with public dining services.
Unless you have agritourism.
Right, yeah. So, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but the farm to table experience is huge. It is booming all around the country. So, again, I've got an organic garden. I want to have a chef come out who's done all the certificates that they need to do through the Board of Health, and they're able to cook on my property. According to this, I can't even have that kind of event out there. I don't understand why. You can't have salvage yards. You can't set up a veterinary clinic or animal hospital. You can't do well drilling or contractor storage yard. You can't do
that one got me. I got to say this. If you're a contractor, you're a handyman, guys that are out there busting their knuckles 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week to make a living, they can't store their stuff on their property they pay taxes on? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me, guys?
It's insane, y'all. The houses of worship, what? Separation of church and state. I thought that was pretty well established nationwide for a very long time. Houses of worship's not allowed. Boarding house, trailer rentals, welding shops, private clubs, canned or confined hunts. I wouldn't be any part of that, so I'm not really familiar with that. And massage parlors. So we brought up the massage parlor thing at the meeting with Danielle. Apparently there's the connotation that if it's a massage parlor, we all know, what that might potentially be.
They don't like the
But there
sex.
are seriously medical massage therapists. That would also fall under the umbrella of a massage parlor. If someone set up a medical facility, you can't do that. You can't have a medical facility. So you can't have a massage parlor either where you give therapeutic massages either. You can't do that. You just can't.
My friend Ermela down in Pekin, this is something that she does. And explain to me exactly why you immediately go to the no-no list when you think massage parlor in Washington County, Indiana, because we've seen plenty of busts for that here in Washington County, Indiana. You can't have a massage parlor, and I'm not arguing for not having barbershops and salons, but that seems a little odd to me. Those two things are somewhat, at least tangentially, related to one another in terms of self-care, etc. So, little hypocritical,
Yep.
Don't you think, that you can have one but you can't have the other? This brings me to another point that I wanted to touch on that we missed real quick here on the agricultural thing, and I've brought this up a few different times. You're so worried about traffic, and you're so worried about disturbing the public in this whole thing, and you're worried about protecting big agriculture, and that's fine, I get it, I understand. You're really worried about all these zones, and yet you're not worried about agricultural equipment causing traffic issues or disturbances. And granted, that's in the agricultural zone, but boy, I sure bet at least twice a year, maybe in the spring and fall, if you use your brain just a little bit, that big ag equipment, probably some of it rolls right through Canton and right through Martinsburg. So they're crossing zones.
Oh, yeah.
That's a little odd. And I'm all for that. I think, I think the people in Martinsburg and Canton, they're probably okay with it too. But again, hypocrites are going to hypocrite.
Yep. I'm glad you mentioned Martinsburg and Canton. So I've asked, they have not polled any of the citizens of those two residential areas that they are deeming to be residential areas. They've not asked those folks, do you want this? They've not asked any of us, do we want this? And that's my biggest issue with this. There was not transparency. They say, okay, hey. No, we did this legal. We notified you in an all but defunct newspaper that no one reads anymore, and that's all the law requires. Well, guess what? I'm going to challenge that at the state level next when I'm done with you guys. We're going to fix that because in this day and age, everyone knows social media is the main platform for dissemination of information. There is no reason that this county, with all the money that these folks are getting to be rulers in this county, can't have a page where they just say, hey guys, this is the Washington County social media page. Here's our next proposal. Here's our next ordinance. Here's our next meeting. There's no reason that they can't do that, but everyone knows if you run it in a newspaper, no one's going to read that, so you can get away with whatever you want. this right here. How many of you guys knew about this noise ordinance that got passed by Todd in October? One of our great county folks reached out to me and said, hey dude, don't want my name in the mix. I need my job. I'm gonna leave this for you in the mailbox, but I think you should be aware of this. How many of you guys knew they passed a noise ordinance back in October? I didn't know about it because I don't read the newspaper. Who does?
Right, exactly. Well, you know, if you made it more complicated and you brought back MySpace and it matched this document, they'd be all about that.
You're showing our age now.
I'm sure Tom's still out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, if you have any dreams of running a business from home, you better get ready to beg and plead. And here's the thing about that: you got to have faith in government. That's what we keep hearing. It's all good faith. Oh, they'll take care of you. Well, guys, if you've lived in Washington County or Southern Indiana any portion of your life, I got news for you. A great many people have been here since before Indiana was a state. They've known each other. They've had feuds. They've carried those feuds. People are still mad at each other from stuff that happened 3 generations ago. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, listen, my grandparents came here in the 1940s. Chase, you're a new guy. I still get called a new guy. I've been here my whole life.
That's
right?
wild.
And if
That's
you speak out on anything, they're paying attention and they're going to try to make it hard on you. Yeah. They absolutely will. I'm not saying all of them. Don't get me wrong. But it has been known to happen in this county quite frequently, and this is not the only place in the world where it happens. I'm just letting you know that anything that makes life more onerous in a rural area that is economically depressed with a 13% poverty rate, it ain't going to be good, guys. It ain't going to be good. It can't be. No. It can't be. No. And they'll use the things to distract you too. So I'll touch on this real quick. So
I'm just going to check and make sure my camera battery hadn't died,
go
y'all.
ahead.
We're some long-winded fellers. It's still going good.
All right.
Y'all, we admit to do a much better job of laying this all out and having a very organized presentation for you. I had a daggum drive shaft just shatter on the interstate today. Our whole schedule got just thrown out of whack. So we apologize for that. I want you to talk about the sex-based businesses section of this here document.
I love it. I love it. They should have just titled that whole 6-page thing
the
no-no spot. It really is what it sounds like, guys. Listen, I understand 1,000,000% that a lot of people in this county, they have a much more socially conservative bent than a lot of other people do. Now, some of us, myself sometimes probably included, hell, I might take advantage of a sex store. I don't know. You know, you get a wild hair every once in a while, maybe you might need a little spice things up here and there. It is what it is.
Yeah.
No judgment, right?
Been married 20, 30 years, yeah.
Yeah, we have no tax base, like I said, and might as well be selling something. Now, the thing is, you added up altogether, it's about 6.5 pages of regulations against adult stores, adult entertainment, etc. The only other things in there that come close are confined animal feeding operations and mining and mineral rights. So you literally spent 6 pages plus laying out all of the above and beyond that you possibly could on sex stores, of which I'm sure none were planning to come to Washington County.
We don't have the population to support that.
Yeah, who's going to buy them? Would it be okay if we made them out of locally available produce? Is that the thing? I might invest in that. I'm just saying. But the truth of the matter is,
definition of popcorn, buddy.
I think, in my opinion, that it was put in here to distract those of you that are interested in making sure that never happens here. And if you're interested in making sure it never happens here, that is absolutely 100% your right. Go for it. Please do whatever you need to do. But it was put here so that certain people could say, well, we've got the moral high ground because we kept them from talking about the sex.
Yeah.
And that's why it's there. That's why they spent that amount of time on it in this document about a rural area where there's not a chance in the next 10 years that anyone would try to open one. I will tell you that at this point, though, if I were a millionaire,
you'd do it just out of spite?
I'd be doing it. Bishop's Bordello. It'd be a thing.
I love it. Y'all listen, I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to the sex store stuff, and I really, honestly, I don't want to see one in our county. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me one way or another if you patron them. But what is perplexing to me is that they could spend that much time, like he said, on that one topic, but they couldn't expound further on what actually applies to the county between the residential and the agricultural, or even go into deeper detail about what the heck they mean by you'll be grandfathered in. Don't worry, this isn't going to hurt you. But let me tell you, it might not hurt you, but guess who it is going to hurt? It's going to hurt your kids, it's going to hurt your grandkids, and it's going to hurt every future generation of this county. I'm not selling away my rights or my freedoms knowing that it's going to hurt them. That's not happening. And that's the whole reason I'm invested in this thing. I believe in the lifestyle that we have, and I believe in your ability to live the lifestyle you want. That's why we're in a rural county, so that we can live how we want on our side of the fence. I might not like what my neighbor's doing on his side of the fence, but if he's not hurting his kids, I don't care. It's his side of the fence.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. And that's the thing about a rural community as it stands right now. Now, don't get me wrong. If there were opportunities for growth and you guys said, well, this is coming. So we asked this, what precipitated all this? And we know that's been going on for a long time. There was no answer. They had nothing, Daniel had nothing to tell us about what precipitated this other than, well, we're one of 12 counties that don't have it. Well, if every other county in Indiana jumped off a cliff, are we going to jump off the cliff too? That's the old thing, right?
Sounding like our parents now, buddy.
I know, I'm old. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I don't know, some of the board stuff. So here's another example when it comes to residential 1 and 2, Martinsburg and Canton.
Yeah.
When it comes to those two areas, you do not have any representation on this board from those areas. Now, Danielle lives close to Canton, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't live in
South Boston.
Yep, in the residential 2 zone, as it were.
Right.
And to be fair, she lives closer than I do. She probably knows more about that area than I do. But you ain't got nobody from Martinsburg. And now here's the bad part about that, Todd. You, I believe, live in the fringe area of Salem as it's defined. I believe. May be wrong, could be wrong. Someone please correct me if I am. Philip
His
Marshall.
daughter and son-in-law do that.
Oh, yeah.
His son-in-law's on the planning board.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, well, there's that. And right there, by where you could potentially develop land in time, potentially. But Philip Marshall lives right outside of Martinsburg. Seems to me like, and maybe Philip was offered that opportunity and he turned it down. I don't know. But it seems to me like it would have at least made sense for him to have been on that board in particular.
Well, maybe, but then he'd have to step down as a commissioner, because I personally don't agree with a commissioner being on the planning board at the same time. If the planning board is presenting the commissioner with a product to vote on, the commissioner shouldn't have their finger in the product. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
That's
and
my opinion.
it may be legal, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's a
It
little
seems like a conflict
weird.
of interest. I don't know. So y'all, this is the map that they want everyone to notice those two little bitty specks. You got to zoom way in to find them. But here's the problem I have, guys. So I asked Danielle, I said, listen, so there's other towns in this county that are populated just like Martinsburg and Canton. Pekin, Livonia, all those have tiny little plats, because they keep saying this is about densely populated areas with tiny little plats. That's what they keep saying. I said, why aren't those areas being considered this residential? Because if you're an incorporated town, you fall under your town's jurisdiction and your town's ordinances. So that brings up the next topic. Way down here in the corner of the county, we got this town that doesn't know yet if they're incorporated or unincorporated, Hartinsburg. You guys are fixing your stuff, and I love your little town. But guess what? If they're telling Martinsburg and Canton that you guys aren't incorporated, so you're not protected, and you don't get to make your own rules, guess who they might be looking at next?
Absolutely.
It only makes sense to reason that they might be looking at other areas that aren't incorporated to tell them what to do as well. Just saying.
The other thing that's very strange to me too about the R1 and the R2, if you go through and you look at what they require for building, so you talk about a double standard here. So in Martinsburg, I believe they say that you can have 1 acre that you can build upon, and that's completely fine. Whereas meanwhile, in the recreational zones and the agricultural zones, and how you came up with recreational, there's trails, there's stuff like that, whatever, but it's a little goofy. And then in Canton, you can have a 1/2 acre. And yet, neither of these two places are growing unless there's something that we don't know about, where there's going to be more plats added. I wouldn't think so, because again, there's no infrastructure, but they did allow for you to have a septic system on 1 acre in Martinsburg, on a 1/2 acre in Canton. They call it something fancy on the Canton page. I can't remember what it is, like a sewage treatment plant system or something. It's septic tank. It literally means septic tank is what it means. So if you're in those areas, 1 acre or a 1/2 acre is fine. The rest of the county, nope, you better have 2 acres. So
And
that
that
seems a little odd.
Yeah, and that bounces us back to the definitions need to be improved upon. And here's something that we asked. We said, give us more time. We said, listen, if you don't want a lot of, everybody's angry, everybody's throwing a fit, give the county time. Let us get together with you guys, since you understand your document, or at least some of them say they do, and let's work together, explain it to each other, talk about what our grievances might be, see if there's any adjustments that can be made or compromises that can be made so that this is fair. And for whatever reason, they don't seem to want to delay this. Todd has said, I'm going to ramrod this bad boy right on through. Now, that's paraphrasing, y'all. He didn't say ramrod, but he just said, we're not going to stop working on this. He said it, I don't know, 8 times. And somebody go back and watch that interview and tell me I'm wrong. It was 7 times. But he said it an awful lot, okay, y'all? The fella doesn't want to let up and put the brakes on this thing so that he can get feedback from the community. And if you're going to give the community rules, I think you might want to listen to the community. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. And even in our meeting with Danielle, we asked, again, we talked about time. Jeremy Burnett brought up, hey, can there be some time here to be able to, can we take some months here, let the public look at this thing, really study it, come up with some questions? All we got out of that was, well, this is really time sensitive. We really, really, really want to push this through. And we asked why, we got no answer. There was no answer related to why they have to push this through right now. And if they want to know where the anger, for example, when I get angry or Chase gets angry or anybody out there is getting angry, where it comes from, it is the blatant lack of transparency. And yes, we could have been going to those meetings, but now that's all said and done. And it does seem like most of this was farmed out to consultants and kept somewhat private anyways from other people we've talked to that were at those meetings. Had the public been made aware that zoning was this close to coming to a head in any way, shape, or form, outside of the non-existent physical paper that we don't have anymore,
Right.
People might have been paying a lot more attention, but that's what they counted on, and that's what they have always counted on. Not they, all of them, but many of these politicians, in my opinion, have counted on that in this county in order to move their agenda forward. And here it is. It's at a head now. And several of us are very angry.
And hey guys, guess what? If you'd have brought us on board 10 years ago, 6 months ago, you'd have known 10 years ago or 6 months ago, we didn't agree with it. We wouldn't be at the point where we're going before the county next week and telling you we don't agree with it, this needs to be fixed. Mm-hmm. We would have been able to work through these hiccups, and you might have had a proposed plan that we'd agreed to. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So here's another thing in here. We're talking about the S's and P's in here. The P means permitted, and the S means you got to ask pretty please on your hands and knees. That's my understanding of it. One thing that really strikes me as odd, why in the Chapter 3 agricultural area, under educational services, you have to ask permission to have a school building, public, private, or parochial. Let me ask you this. Do you homeschool your kids? Would you consider that you are privately schooling your kids? Since when do we have to ask the county permission to do that? Indiana State has already decided you can do that. So how is the county going above and beyond what the state's doing, since they say a lot of the stuff's coming from the state? What? I don't understand. That falls back to definitions. If you guys aren't saying that this impacts homeschoolers, then you need to be more clear about that in your definition area in the back of the page. I'm just saying.
Well, with the same hypocrisy there, a couple things that are in that section as well that really annoyed me were you have church, and then they don't give you the legal definition, which I said before. Then you have down below there, it's like other similar religious services.
Yep, similar religious, civic, and social uses not listed. You got to ask permission.
Yeah. So, but no definition for that. And also, if you'll notice, they have all these over here on the right-hand columns, and Chase can show you. They'll show you a header that you can look at to be able to find out the information for what regulates that. But look at all those blanks. Now, I'm not saying there aren't things in this document that explain that later on, but take the time to fill in those blanks. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, there's no reason not to. The other hypocritical thing they did in here is they allow for wedding reception centers or event centers, but they do not allow for actual event centers.
Right, that's right there. You got to ask permission for event centers and venues. But if you're doing a wedding and reception venue, you are permitted to. Mm-hmm. So what's different there? You can get hitched. You can have a business marrying people and let them get married in your business, but you can't have a business just hosting events. Why is that? Are they trying to dictate what type of events are allowed in the county?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Here's some goofiness in there as well. So they list breweries and wineries and taverns. They don't list distilleries, which that's fine, whatever. We sort of presume that it's all on the same sort of category. But under agricultural, they are an S. Meanwhile, under recreational, they are, I'm sorry, yes, they're an S. Under agricultural, recreational, they are a P. That's a little strange, don't you think, considering that Indiana's farm distilling bill and artisan distillery bill is tied directly to agriculture, and all distillation is tied directly to agriculture. That's a little odd to me. So what you're saying is, in the agricultural zone, you don't look at those alcohol products as being value-added agricultural products. So you're not really interested in promoting agriculture in the agricultural zone, but if it's over there in that recreational zone where them hippies like to go out on the trails, that's fine.
Speaking of that recreational zone, can anybody tell me why almost the whole top third of the county is considered recreational? I don't understand that at all, because there's a whole lot of farms out there. I mean, I like to ride a daggone four-wheeler around the farm and stuff, but it's still agricultural. Why? What's going on there? Why is that zone that way? I don't understand that. Is there something that's coming down the pipeline that we're not familiar with? Because as far as I know, we got Delaney up there, and I don't know of a whole lot of other recreational areas up there. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, and also as far as being a document that was not well written and not well thought out, we have the walking trail, which we touched on a little bit a while ago. Whether you're for it, whether you're against it, we know it's not a county issue. But what is a county issue is the traffic it's going to create, the parking issues it's going to create. Yet you guys didn't create a single ordinance related to that walking trail in any way, shape, or form. Why is that?
Yeah. So repeatedly you hear in interviews Todd saying about being neighborly, being a good neighbor, being a good neighbor. Over and over again, just we're doing this so people are better neighbors. I'm for the trail, absolutely, because I like to ride my bike. I'm a big boy, my knees hurt when I run, I messed them up in Iraq. I like to ride my bike, and I don't want to have to worry about getting ran off the road by somebody that's mad that I'm on a bicycle. So I'm for it. But at the same time, landowners whose property touches the trail, I completely understand their concerns. But what I'm getting from this whole scenario is the government's telling us to be neighborly to each other. But hey, guess what? If we want to put a walking trail right through your backyard, we don't have to be neighborly to you. We don't have to hear your concerns. We don't care, because we want to do it, and we're the government, and we can. But if you or I want to do something, we got to ask permission.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. And guys, don't take it from us. Read the document.
Please.
Everybody has bias. I have bias. Chase has bias. Everybody that's going to read this does. Everybody on that board has bias. Don't take it from us. Read the document. If you don't read the document, come to the public meeting that we're having, and I'll
Tomorrow
let him.
night.
Yep. And come to the actual meeting on the on February the 4th. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not going to speak, tell other people. Tell them what's going on. Let them look at the document. I'm sure a lot of them are a lot smarter than I'll ever be. They probably understand that way better than I do.
Yep.
But they need to be at the meeting, and you need to be at that meeting even if you don't speak.
Right.
And if you are in favor of this, I'll say that.
Yeah.
If you're in favor of Trash Volume 1,
that's your right.
Come in.
Yeah.
Tell us why you're in favor of it, and explain to us why we're wrong.
Right. I'm capable of growth. I'm capable of change. But you got to bring me something that's fact-based, not just emotion-based, y'all. Talking about that meeting, tomorrow night, right here in this location, very thankful to Tony Caldwell for allowing us to use his auction hall to have that meeting. It'll be tomorrow night, 7 p.m., right here in Auction Hall, 110 Progress Way, Salem, Indiana. Everyone's welcome to come. But y'all, I really need to touch on this, and I should have touched on it earlier in the video because I know half of y'all probably ain't watched this thing because it's a very long video, and I understand that. Just like half of y'all ain't read this book because it's very long and it's going to put you to sleep. The media is going to be at our meeting tomorrow night. Let's represent the best of this county.
Don't let me talk.
And there's going to be much smarter people at that meeting than Alan and I, so you guys will have way better adults to listen to than just us, all right? But no, seriously, let's be the best that we can be for this county. Y'all, tomorrow night needs to be productive. We don't need a BF. We don't need to have a bunch of people in here just complaining. That's not going to get us anywhere. We need to get a game plan. We need to understand what our grievances are, what we don't understand about this. We need to figure out as a group.
Yep.
I don't understand all the industrial stuff and the CAFO stuff because that's not an area that's near and dear to my heart or my life, and I don't have a lot of experience in that. I could get brushed up on it if you gave me more time, Todd, and I could learn, but I don't know that that's going to be an option, y'all. So please come to the meeting, come with an open heart, and just talk to your neighbors. We've got to come up with a solution that we can present to the board on February 4th. Now that's the next thing. February 4th, is it 6 or 6:30?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I do not remember.
It seems like it kept getting changed. It kept getting pushed around. I'm going to be there at 5:45 to make sure my name's on the list. But it's at the courthouse. Todd has said in the interview, I'm not changing the location. I don't care if there's a bunch of people who want to come out here. I'm not moving it to the school. Well, that kind of makes me wonder, sir, are you not wanting to see everybody that's in objection to this? Because that room can only fit so many of us.
That lawn holds an awful lot, though.
Right, but he won't be able to see them from his big old chair up there.
He can hear them from the megaphone, though.
Hey, there you go.
That might be where I'm at.
That might be best. Y'all, seriously, do your research, be informed. The media is going to be here tomorrow. I don't know how I got roped into this goat and pony show, but I'm going to be on the news tomorrow at 11 also talking about this stuff. They're coming out here to interview me and some other folks. And then they'll be here tomorrow night. We've got folks coming from big news organizations, so it's not just the local small folks that you're not going to see or hear. It's going to be circulated pretty far and wide. And then we've also got reporters from both local newspapers coming as well. We appreciate that they're coming. I hope somebody reads the articles. You know, there might be some folks that don't get on social media and reads the articles, and it'll be good if that exposure gets to them because people need to know about this. And that is my biggest complaint with this whole thing is the transparency. We were not informed, and whoever leaked it the first time, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
They weren't happy about that neither. We
No.
heard that they weren't. We were supposed to come to the meeting so we could know what was going on, but when I said, well, somebody leaked it, yeah, we weren't happy about that.
Right.
Weird. Also, proof of a rural community. You catch yourself what you said? The big news is coming.
Right. The big news is coming. That's right, y'all. And somebody asked me that. It was funny when I told somebody I can't believe y'all. I got to be on the news, and oh Lord, I'm getting hot to think about. I'm sweating. I'm nervous. But they were like, "Are you talking about WSLM with Becky?" I was like, "No,
No.
no." I was like, it's the Louisville news, the big news, y'all.
Yep.
Guys, I think we got a chance, and I'm telling you right now, if we come together and we don't let them distract us and we don't get divided by the bickering of our misunderstandings of this document, we have a chance for our voices to be heard. And if they don't listen to our voice and they don't do the will of the people, because they've all said we're public servants, we're going to remind them of that come election time. I promise you that much. You got anything else you want to add before we quit bending their ear?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I did want to clarify. I've said that I wasn't going to speak at the meeting. I don't currently plan to. I could always change my mind just for fun. But I've stated all the things that I need to state to the public. I will be there to watch the meeting. I might speak, but more than likely I'm just going to listen because I have enough faith in my community that people are going to show up and do the right thing, and that someone with my demeanor and attitude doesn't need to be the one taking 2 minutes to speak, because I can fit a lot of words into 2 minutes, but none of them are ones you want to hear in public.
I agree. Oh man, you made me laugh and I lost my last string of thought on that one.
Sorry.
It's all right, brother. I appreciate it. Y'all listen, we're just doing this because we care. That's it. That's all it is. We care about our community. We care about this county, and we want it to be a good place for everyone to live. I host a biannual homesteading conference, and I've been having to host it over in Scott County because I hadn't been able to find anywhere in Washington County that I can afford or that's even big enough. I reached out to Old Temple over there at the Cornerstone place. They wanted $5,000 and $7 per tablecloth and all kinds of stuff. Ooh. I said, dude, I'm doing this for free. This is coming out of my pocket. I put this on. But that's what really initially got me fired up. David Lyles, you put out some misinformation, sir, but I still appreciated your passion and that you were against this. When you got on that radio and I heard what you were saying, that got me fired up because that's attacking the homesteading way of life. And I love that way of life because it's giving me self-sufficiency and it's giving me freedom. Freedom from the food chain, freedom from the toxic chemicals that are in everything that we consume. And y'all are telling me you're coming after that. I don't appreciate that. I put way too much time, effort, and energy into sharing this lifestyle with people and educating people about homesteading. So that's what got me fired up. Y'all might have got this one over on me if David didn't do that. So David, I do appreciate you for that part. I really do.
That's probably why I'm mad. They're messing up my maple syrup season right now.
Well, there you go. All right, y'all. We appreciate it. If you watched it this far, thank you. If not, that's all right too. We'll see you tomorrow night, I hope.